Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Nicholas Mutinda from Nairobi branch. We are still continuing with employee resourcing, and today we are going to discuss about chapter 2, human resource planning. Human resource planning. Now, what is human resource planning? When you are talking about human resource planning, remember the work of a human resource manager is to ensure that the organization has the required number and required kind of employees. The organization has the right quality and right quantity of employees at all times. Now, for you as a human resource manager to achieve that, you depend on human resource planning. So when you are talking about human resource planning, is the measures, is planning for the organization, is ensuring that the organization has the required right number and the right quantity, the right quality of employees at all times. How do you ensure that? You ensure that by planning for the organization, by planning the human resource requirements for the organization. And you can only do that through human resource planning. That's why this topic, this chapter is very critical. Make sure you understand about the issues about human resource planning, because you will be required to do this over and over again. There is no way you can recruit, there is no way you can introduce, there is no way you can do all other chapters. Remember, we talked about human capital in the first chapter, and there is no way you can do that without planning for the organization, without planning the human resource requirements for the employee. So it is very critical for you to understand the aspects of human resource planning. And this year we are going to discuss several, I think there are 9 subtopics. We will discuss what is human resource planning, we will discuss what is objectives of human resource planning, we will discuss characteristics of human resource planning. We will look around what are those issues surrounding human resource planning in order to ensure that the human resource manager is equipped for the work ahead. Because if you don't get it right at the human resource planning, you are done. You have the organization, irrespective of how best you do the other functions of human resource planning, you will not be successful. So it is very critical for you to understand the issues about human resource planning. And because it's a very long chapter, we'll do 2 subtopics, not 2 subtopics, we'll do 2 videos. So the first video will cover, I think, about 4 or 5 subtopics, and then we move to the next, where we'll cover the remaining subtopics. So welcome, and I want to remind you, if you have not subscribe to my channel, kindly subscribe. It's just, you need just to click there below the video, and you will be able to get more of these videos. Welcome to the video. So we will start with the definition of human resource planning. 2.1 definition of human resource planning. Human resource planning. Definition of HRP. When you see HRP, we are simply meaning human resource planning. So, what do we mean by human resource planning? And human resource planning, basically we are looking at how does human resource manager or human resource department ensure that the human resources, the organization has the required human resources at all times. How do we ensure that? Is the process whereby you plan for the human resource requirements for the organization to ensure that at any given period of time, the organization has the required number and the required kind of employees to achieve the organizational objectives of the organization at all times is the process whereby you plan to ensure that the organization at all time, at any given period of time, has the required number and the required kind of employees. The organization has the required quantity and the required quality of employees. And when we are talking about qualities, we are talking about the skills. We are talking about the competencies. We are talking about the expertise required to drive the organizational objectives of the organization. So, human resource planning is the process by which the human resource department determines how the organization should move from its current manpower position to its desired position. How strives to ensure that the organization have the required number and the right kind of employees at the right places. The process whereby human resource department strives to ensure that the organization has the right number and the right kind of employees at the right places at the right time, doing the right things. Right quantity, right quality of employees at the right places at the right time, doing the right things. So you ensure that if you are talking about an engineer should be doing the engineering. He has skills, but are those skills employed at the right place? Are those skills employed at the right time? And that, which process is that? The process whereby the human resource department plans for the organization to ensure that it has the right number of employees, the right kind of employees, being at the right place, doing at the right time, doing the right things for the achievement of the organizational objectives. That is what we define as human resource planning. That is what we define as what? Human resource planning. How do you do that? You do that by scanning the environment. What are the resources required for us as an organization? Based on the strategic direction of the organization, what will be the required human resources in terms of quality and quantity? If the strategic direction of the organization, if the strategic objective of the organization is to digitize its operations, definitely that organization will require ICT experts. Do we have those rights? Do we have those ICT experts in the organization? In 2 years period, because we intend by 2 years period the organization to have digitized all its operations. So we will require 500 ICT experts. We require 500 ICT experts in 2 years' time. That is one aspect. So we have realized what we call demand forecasting. We have predicted the demand for the employees. Demand forecasting. We have predicted the demand for employees. Now, the second aspect is what we call supply forecasting. We forecast supply. So in 2 years period, we require 500 ICT experts. Will they be available in the market? What will be the supply of ICT experts? Either internally or externally. Will we, looking at our organization, will we be having 500 ICT experts? No, we will not have. So will they be available in the market? If we place adverts, can we get them? Can they apply? Supply what? Forecasting. Supply forecasting. Will they be available? Will there be supply of ICT experts in the market? Probably based on the courses being done at universities. Probably based on how many technology-based institutions we have in Kenya. How many people are graduating with ICT? How many people are enrolled to do degrees in ICT? We can be able to determine the supply based on those aspects. Are people enrolling for that ICT diplomas? Are people enrolling for ICT degrees, related degrees? How are people graduating? Based on that, we forecast the supply, we predict the supply. Now, remember we predicted demand supply. Now, the third and very critical is matching supply, this demand and supply. You match that demand with the supply. And how do you match? You're coming up with actions to ensure that whatever we require is available, either internally or externally. So how do you do that? You realize there will be a shortage in supply. So what can you do? Probably you can lobby the government to give incentives for students to go and do ICT in colleges. That is number one. Probably you can lobby, or you can approach universities to train ICT experts, and you book them in first year. Probably you can now start your training your employees to ensure that in 2 years period they will have ICT know-how. You are trying to match demand and supply. You have already forecasted I require 500 employees, 5 ICT experts. You have realized there will be a deficit. So you are trying to ensure that there will be supply, either internally or externally. If the universities lobbying universities going and booking them seems to be quite costly for the organization, you start recruiting now to ensure that by 2 years period you have what? The 500 ICT experts. So every graduate you recruit. Every graduate in this ICT you recruit. In order so that by the time the organization is 2 years, you have the required number of employees. And that is what we call what? Human resource planning. Demand forecasting, supply forecasting, and matching demand and supply. In terms of quantity, in terms of quality. Now, we can go to to 2.2, objectives of human resource planning. Objectives of human resource planning. What are the objectives of human resource planning? 2.2 objectives of HRP. Number 1, achieve organizational goals. The objective of human resource planning is to ensure that the organization is able to achieve organizational goals. How do you achieve that? That can only be achieved by ensuring that the human resources required in the organization are available. Now, if you are talking about probably that example of digitizing operations, and you don't do human resource planning as required, so will the organization be able to digitize its operations without the ICT experts? Will the organization be able to achieve its objective, its goal of digitizing, if it doesn't have the required manpower? No, it won't. If you are talking about an organization expanding, probably opening a branch. Let's say we are talking about a restaurant, opening a branch along Uhuru Highway. If you are talking about opening a new branch at Upper Hill to cater for the market of the civil servants there, and you don't plan, so you find the type of food that you offer, nobody can cook it. You don't have enough cooks. We don't have enough chefs. Will you be able to achieve your organizational objective? No, you won't. Because remember, we have said, we talked about when we are talking in chapter 1, we said organizational competitiveness nowadays is determined by the human capital it has. So if you don't plan well and you find that your organization has a deficiency in human capital, definitely your organization is doomed. It cannot be able to achieve its objectives because you have failed as a human resource manager. So, key objective of human resource planning is to ensure that the organization is able to achieve its organizational objectives. Number 2 is to estimate future organizational manpower requirements. Estimate future manpower requirements. Estimate future human requirements, manpower requirements. We have talked about demand forecasting. You are able to see what is the graph in terms of the requirements of the employees, manpower. In the first year period, we require 200 ICT experts. In the second year, we require 500. In the third year, we require 700. In fifth year, we require 2,000. What are the requirements? Because you have done human resource planning. Failure to do that, probably you will be ensuring that the organization is not on the warpath. Another objective is that you are able to do human resource audits. Human resource audits. What do we have as an organization? What do we have? We have 400 employees. 200 have this kind of skills. 200 have kind of these skills. 50 have PhDs. 100 have master's degrees. 150 have bachelor's degrees and above. The others have diplomas. Human resource audit. Most of our employees are skilled in this. Most of our employees are skilled in skill X. Most of our employees are lacking in skill Y. Human resource audit, because you are looking at what are the human resources, what in terms of quantity, in terms of quality, in terms of experience, in terms of capacity, in terms of competencies. We have 400 employees. Half of them will be retiring in 3 years to come. We have 400 employees. Half of them have 5 years experience and above. Human resource what? Audit. Number 4 is what we call job analysis. The objective of human resource planning, in order to ensure that you have a job analysis. What is job analysis? Job analysis is simply looking at duties and responsibilities of a job. The requirements for that job, skills required, contribution to the organization. What if you are talking about in the banking sector, a customer care service officer, what are his duties and responsibilities? How many customers is he able to serve in a day? What are the required skills for the holder of that job? What is the contribution of this job holder in our operations? Can we be able to operate without that job holder? How many people work under him? Where does he report to? To whom does he report to? Can we be able to do away with this job position? That is what we are calling about job analysis. And by so doing, you find you are able to do job analysis. Do we require this? Probably, if you find that the contribution of this job is insignificant, you can do away with it. You can do away with it. Probably I've been paying people a lot of money, yet that job can be done by somebody else. By doing this, you can be able to avoid wastages of human resources. Probably you find that the skills this guy does, the person who is holding that job, we don't have somebody who has those skills. So job analysis is one of the objectives of what? Human resource planning, HRP. HRP. Another objectives is turnover analysis. Turnover analysis. What is turnover? The rate at which employees are joining and leaving the organization. So human resource planning does those issues, looks about turnover analysis. Remember, we are talking about demand and supply. So if there is a high turnover, definitely don't expect to have employees in the organization, because people are joining and leaving. So you are able to do turnover analysis. Probably what is contributing to people joining the organization and leaving at a very high rate? How can we be able to reduce the turnover rate? How can we be able to reduce it? How can we be able to reduce it? Another thing is, you are able to do training requirements. How many employees require training? How many employees require skills? Where do we what skills do we bring to the employees? Which kind of seminars do we do? Which kind of seminars do we do? What are the development, training and development requirements in our organization? You do that through human resource planning. Because you have realized these employees do not have these skills, these employees do not have these skills, these employees do not have these skills. It is also important for succession planning. Succession planning. This guy is expected to retire in 5 years. Who will take over from him? Do we require to start employing other people from outside to come and do an understudy? Or do we develop an employee here? Another thing, impact of technology. There is ever-changing business world. There is an advancement in technology now and then. You are able to see what is the impact of technology on the human resource requirements. In 5 years' time, people will be using robots. That is an impact on technology, artificial knowledge. So what will be the impact on the employee requirements of our organization? How do we start preparing for that? You don't go ahead because you may probably artificial knowledge is coming. So you will digitize your operations. And then you go on employing people and signing permanent jobs, contracts. Employing people on permanent and pensionable. Yet, in 5 years' time, you will not require them because of technology. Now, look at what you are driving the organization to. You have employed people on permanent and pensionable terms. Technology is advancing, so you will be using artificial knowledge while you are stuck with employees whom you have signed permanent and pensionable contracts. What will you do? Will you not have messed the organization? So it's very critical to talk about, to see the impact of technology on the organization. And to be able to progress knowledge and skills. We have talked about that. To minimize imbalances, to minimize deficiency, to ensure that you don't have a shortage of employees. Another very critical one, estimate cost of employees. Estimate cost of employees. What is the expected cost of employees? Especially if we acquire outside. What will be the cost? Supposing we develop here. Another very key word is optimum utilization of employees. 10. optimum utilization of employees are the people engaged in their right places. Are the people engaged in their right places? Or we have an engineering, a very good engineer who is doing accountancy. We have a very good accountant guy who is doing photocopying. We have a very good marketing who is doing washing the utensils at Tiga. Yet he can be able to do marketing. Optimum utilization of employees. Now, I think that is all about objectives of human resource planning, objectives of HRP. So we can look at the characteristics of human resource planning. Number one, it is future oriented. It is future oriented. We are talking about the requirements of the employees on the future, in the long term, in the short term. We are not talking about now. What will be the required number of employees? Forward looking, based on the direction of the organization. What will be the requirements of the organization? Future oriented. Number two, goal oriented. It is a goal we are aiming at. What is the goal? Ensuring that we have the required quantity and quality of employees at the right place, at the right time, doing the right things. That is the goal. It is goal-oriented. It is a continuous process. We don't stop. Year in, year out. It is a continuous. It is a continuous process. It does not stop. It is a optimum utilization of employees. We have talked about that. Both quantitative, these are both quantitative and qualitative process. We are looking at both quantity and quality of employees, skills, expertise, experience, competencies, potential. Those are qualitative in nature. We look at that also. We also look at the number, quantity. Another thing, it is an integral part of cooperative planning. Part of corporate planning. There is no way an organization can plan without involving the employee requirements. Because employees are at the center of strategic planning. They are the center of the achievement of the strategic goals of the organization. So it is, HRP is at the center of corporate planning. It's an integral part of corporate planning. You can't talk about strategic goals, strategic objectives of the organization without talking about employees. Because these are the critical part. Remember we said employee human capital is the competitive. It's aspect which brings competitive advantage of the organization. So if you don't have the required number, if you don't have the required quality of employees, you can't be able to achieve the organization objectives. You can't be able. So it works. We have said it's future oriented, so it is long term and short term. And then lastly, it involves study of manpower requirements. It involves study of manpower requirements. It involves manpower requirements. So, having said that, I think that is all about characteristics. So we can talk about 2.4, importance of human resource requirement, importance of HRP. Number one, efficient utilization of manpower. Efficient utilization of manpower. We have discussed that because when you are doing human resource planning, we have talked, when we are discussing about the characteristics, when we are discussing about the demand forecasting and those, we have talked about it ensures efficient utilization of human resource requirements. Number two is ensuring that people are placed in the right jobs at the right time. Remember, we have talked about that. Ensuring that people are placed in the right jobs at the right time, doing the right things. Importance of human resource planning. Importance of human resource planning. Another importance is ensuring that organizations are able to develop succession plans. Succession plans. Organizations are able to develop succession plans. Remember, if this guy leaves, who will take over? Who will take over from him? Who will take over from him? We are able to determine training and skills gaps. Where do we require training? Which kind of people require more skills? You are able to identify training gaps. Through HRP, an organization is able to avoid shortage of manpower. Avoid shortage of manpower. Because you did human resource planning very well. You are able to avoid those. You don't have shortage in manpower. Because you did your demand forecasting, you did your supply forecasting, and you developed plans to ensure that demand matches supply. We have talked about succession planning. We have talked about striking a balance between demand and supply of resources. Yeah, I think another thing Increase productivity. Increase productivity by placing employees where they are best. Placing employees at their best places. This guy has been working as a teller, but he can do marvelous at the customer care service. So you are able to increase productivity by ensuring that people are working where they are required. People are working, are exploiting their full potential because they love what they are doing. Another thing is that the organization is able to identify who, where, and where people are needed. I think that we have discussed. We have also talked about ensuring that training and demand supply of resources. I think we have talked probably all the importance of human resources. We have talked about that. We have talked about the several issues about human resource planning, importance of human resources. We have talked about efficient utilization of human resources, placing the right people in the right jobs. We have talked about succession plans. And another very key word, the organization is able to attract the best talent. It's able to get the best talent in the organization. It's able to attract and retain best talent in the market. You are continuously looking at the outside world. So when you realize a good talent, you get it even before the others. And look at what these guys have been doing. Barcelona, Real Madrid. What have they been doing? Look at their guys, they are able to capture Barcelona and Real Madrid. They are able to identify the raw talent of footballers. That's why no wonder they are very successful. Because they get the best. They identify the best. And they get them before even the other clubs. And they pay handsomely. They can pay any money because we're paying the best in the market. And that is the aspect of human resource planning, especially when you are talking about organizations which are sensitive. For instance, when you are talking about technology-oriented organizations, when people are coming up with innovations, you need people who are able to innovate. People who are smart here. Otherwise, you will be outrun by your competitors. Otherwise, you will be outrun by your competitors. So I think having said that, we can move to the next subtopic. The next subtopic, scope of human resource. Scope of human resource. 2.5, scope of HRP. Here we are talking about scenario planning and action planning. So what do we mean by scope? And scope, you are looking at your potential, your capability as an organization. So when you are talking about scope of HRP, we simply mean you are looking at the capacity of the organization in terms of human resources. What do we have as an organization? What skills are available in the organization? What competencies are available in the organization? How much experience do we have as an organization? The scope, the scenario planning. What do we have as an organization? What are we able to do? What is our potential? What is our capability in terms of human resources? Both in terms of quantity and quality. What do we have as an organization? What do we have? And now, after you have identified the scenario, what action is appropriate to take? What action is appropriate? If we have required skills, we can relax. But if we don't have, what action do we take? Or probably we should not relax, because if you have the appropriate skills, you need also to retain them. So, if you have the appropriate, work on retaining. If you have inadequacy, work on attracting new skills. If you have potential, training, do training and develop. Train and develop. That is basically the three. Do you have the best? Do you have enough? Work on retaining. Do you have inadequacy? Work on attracting new employees, new skills, new expertise. You have potential employees who can become better. So train and develop. Train and develop them. And you will be able to achieve the organizational objectives of the organization. So you do scenario planning. You plan, what is it that I have? What am I required to do? So scenario planning entails looking at the human, depending on the scenario, what are the available employees, what I require, what are the deficits, what are the surpluses, where do I train, which seminars are required in my organization based on the scenario planning. I have good employees. They are on the technical aspect, they are very good, but they require interpersonal skills. So I engage a trainer in interpersonal skills. In terms of technical aspects, we have good engineers, but we lack social scientists who can identify the demands of the people. So you attract, you bring social scientists to the organization. You are doing scenario and action planning. Look at the way football clubs in Europe do. And in football club, there are three aspects. There is striking department, there is midfield department and defense department, and then goalkeeping. So we may have good strikers, we may have good defenders, but we don't have good midfielders. So what do we do? Let's attract midfielders. We have good defense, we have good midfield, but we are lacking. We need to strengthen on the striking department. So we strengthen. We have good strikers, we have good midfielders, we have good defenders, but we don't have a good world-class goalkeeper. So we strengthen the goalkeeper. And that is basically what we are talking about, scope of human resource planning. That is scenario and action planning. And you will realize that the organization is able to achieve its objectives. Realize the organization is able to achieve its objectives. So I think that is all. That is all in this video. We are remaining with 4 subtopics, but the 4 subtopics we'll cover them in the next video. The next human resource planning 2. This is human resource planning 1. So we look for human resource planning 2, and you'll be able to get those 4 other subtopics. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed, kindly subscribe, and you subscribe by just clicking on the button, the subscribe button there below the video. Thank you very much. Bye.